Pons varioli. The pons, or forepart of the hindbrain, is situated in front of the cerebellum. From its superior surface, the cerebral peduncles emerge, one on either side of the middle line. Curving around each peduncle, close to the upper surface of the pons, a thin white band, the tinea pontis, is frequently seen. It enters the cerebellum between the middle and superior peduncles. Behind and below, the pons is continuous with the medulla oblongata, but is separated from it in front by a furrow in which the abducent, facial, and acoustic nerves appear. Its ventral or anterior surface, pars basilaris pontis, is very prominent, markedly convex from side to side, less so from above downward. It consists of transverse fibers arched like a bridge across the middle line and gathered on either side into a compact mass which forms the middle peduncle. It rests upon the clivus of the sphenoidal bone and is limited above and below by well-defined borders. In the middle line is the sulcus basilaris for the lodgment of the basilar artery. This sulcus is bounded on either side by an eminence caused by the descent of the cerebrospinal fibers through the substance of the pons. Outside these eminences, near the upper border of the pons, the trigeminal nerves make their exit, each consisting of a smaller medial motor root and a larger lateral sensory root. Vertical lines drawn immediately beyond the trigeminal nerves may be taken as the boundaries between the ventral surface of the pons and the middle cerebellar peduncle. Its dorsal or posterior surface, pars dorsalis pontis, triangular in shape, is hidden by the cerebellum and is bounded laterally by the superior peduncle. It forms the upper part of the rhomboid fossa, with which it will be described. Structure. Transverse sections of the pons show it to be composed of two parts, which differ in appearance and structure. Thus, the basilar or ventral portion consists for the most part of fibers arranged in transverse and longitudinal bundles, together with a small amount of gray substance, while the dorsal tegmental portion is a continuation of the reticular formation of the medulla oblongata, and most of its constituents are continued into the tegmenta of the cerebral peduncles. The basilar part of the pons consists of A. Superficial and deep transverse fibers, B. Longitudinal fasciculi, and C. Some small nuclei of gray substance, termed the nuclei pontis, which give rise to the transverse fibers. The superficial transverse fibers, fibrae pontis superficialis, constitute a rather thick layer on the ventral surface of the pons and are collected into a large rounded bundle on either side of the middle line. This bundle, with the addition of some transverse fibers from the deeper part of the pons, forms the greater part of the brachium pontis. The deep transverse fibers, fibrae pontis profundae, partly intersect and partly lie in the dorsal aspect of the cerebrospinal fibers. They course to the lateral border of the pons and form part of the middle peduncle. A further connections of this brachium will be discussed with the anatomy of the cerebellum. The longitudinal fasciculi, fasciculi longitudinalis, are derived from the cerebral peduncles and enter the upper surface of the pons. They stream downward on either side of the middle line in larger or smaller bundles separated from each other by the deep transverse fibers. These longitudinal bundles cause a forward projection of the superficial transverse fibers and thus give rise to the eminences on the anterior surface. Some of these fibers end in or give off collateral to the nuclei pontis. An important pathway is thus formed between the cerebral cortex and the cerebellum, the first neuron having its cell body in the cortex and